senior staff writer over at Cracked and the host of the TMNT podcast called Turtle Tracks, is on the show with me today. And I couldn't be more excited to talk about the article over the greatest Looney Tunes characters of all time. So, of course, you realize this means podcast.
Are you ready, eager young space cadets?
Meep, meep.
I call a pussycat.
Love is the limit.
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
Hello and welcome to Of Course You Realize This Means podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Graves, and with me today, it is an honor to have on a fellow podcaster as well as a senior staff writer over at crack.com, as well as a staff writer at Mel Magazine. He is the reason why I was fortunate enough to contribute to an article around these cherished characters, the Looney Tunes. Like, we have never had an article or a piece of documented paper that pulled together the resources that are currently available to pinpoint the greatest Looney Tunes of all time. And thankfully, Brian VanHooker brought it amongst himself to do that extremely honorable task. So, Brian, welcome to the show. And how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
It's an honor to have you, and I cannot wait to talk about this article. Where did the idea come from? Like, did somebody, egg you on to do something like this, or was it a dare, or did you just take it upon yourself?
I mean, it Cracked. I pitch a lot of my own ideas. I also get ideas assigned to me. We had done a few of these 100 greatest articles prior to this. The first one I did was South Park. And then I'd done a Simpsons one. And I was trying to think what other kinds of properties have such a deep well of characters and that I kind of know about and care about.
Yeah.
If you want
Makes
me to
sense.
count the 100 greatest Big Bang Theory characters, I'm not your guy. But yeah, I love the Looney Tunes, and I thought it would be really cool to get a bunch of experts together and rank all them. And I kind of got the murderer's row of people to talk to this. So
you did, and that list it doesn't just consist of podcasters like myself. It consists of historians like Jerry Beck, and you have the Ruth Clampett and Bob McKimson's son. You went to the well of the living legends and their lineage, and you were like, what would your dad say? Like,
yeah, I mean, that was really a big thing. Was I'd interviewed Ruth Clampett and Bob McKimson Jr. prior to this, and they were both I'd done a piece on Rebel Rabbit years ago, back when people I wanted to kind of explain what was behind that Florida meme.
La la la, la 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 la, la la.
What's the big idea of rabbits being only white 2 cents? Stop steaming up my glasses.
Where
yeah.
So I went to him. So I did a piece on the history of Rebel Rabbit and reached out to Bob McKimson Jr. kind of on just a whim, and he said yes, and spoke to that a little bit, and reached back out to him for this. I had spoken to Ruth Clampett recently, asking her to name her dad's like 3 to 5 favorite shorts, because Bob Clampett's my favorite Looney Tunes director, and she's awesome. Jerry Beck is somebody I hadn't spoken to before, but I'd been a fan. Bob Bergen, who is a great voice actor, he does Porky Pig and Tweety Bird. He was kind of a late addition to this, but I was thrilled to talk to him because he was great. After interviewing him, I asked him to name his 3 favorite pork products, and we did a whole piece just on that, which was super fun.
Amazing.
The Porky Pig do pork products. Who else did we get here?
Jeff Bergman is on there.
He's done, like, almost every Looney Tunes character for since Mel Brooks passed.
Mel Blanc.
Oh,
but yes.
Oh my God, it was a hell of a flub. Yeah, Mel Blanc passed, and it's late, and I got my Mel's confused. That's the forgivable one, I think.
All good, all good. Yep. And yeah, the Jeff Bergman is the man who took over for Mel Blanc after his passing. He did Tiny Toons with Bugs and so many others, and he's currently Sylvester in Looney Tunes cartoons, amongst a myriad of characters across all Looney Tune franchises right now. So yeah, I mean, that was a good get.
Crazy. And speaking of Tiny Toons, another person who was part of this was Tom Ruger, who created Tiny Toons and is notoriously a huge Looney Tunes fan. I interviewed him a few times in the past. So you, Trevor Thompson, who does another Looney Tunes thing on YouTube. And Dave Alvarez, who's an amazing artist. I think that's everybody. No, Andrew Farrago, who does who's a curator of the Cartoon Art Museum. I want to make sure I didn't forget anybody. But I wanted
to listing them all.
Yeah, I got a good round of people for this. But even with even with having the historians, I still wanted to have like super fans who really care about this stuff, which is why I reached out to you to kind of help round out the list and kind of get in the weeds, because it's hard to keep people for hours and hours to talk about who should be number 47 versus who should be number 48. So you took a lot of time for this, which I appreciate. So.
Happy to do so. It is obviously near and dear to my heart as well as yours, and I'm glad it came from a place of passion. It was a franchise that you grew up with, that you really connected with.
I pulled out all my golden collections, and I was like, I need to make sure I am getting the main characters from every cartoon.
Yes,
in the golden collection. So.
You did them justice. And I'm wondering, so you had this collection of minds. Was there anything that rose to the top about something specific that was maybe under the radar for Looney Tune fans in general that we didn't really know about ourselves, or something that was said that you're like, oh, okay, so this thing is true amongst a lot of fans and even the people that are a part of it?
I mean, I guess to some degree. I mean, like, I love Looney Tunes, but I kind of love them in a vacuum. I grew up with them, I watch them, but I don't follow any of the modern stuff, which is just because I'm busy. But I do I wanted it to reflect some of that too. And I guess I didn't know who Cool Cat was before doing this list. And as soon as I learned who he was, I was like, he should be at the bottom of the list because he sucks. And
the last Looney Tune.
The first, yeah, but I mean, he's important, right? He's an important character, but he definitely sucks.
I mean, it's fault. He had bad direction.
Bad direction, bad animation. I mean, it's the tail end of it. They're doing kind of cheapy Hanna-Barbera TV art on a big screen. That's no good. So I kind of had the idea that maybe he's the last one. And I interviewed Jerry Beck first, and he's like, one of the first things he said was, "Oh, Cool Cat's got to be number 100, right?" And I was like, okay, that just settled it. He's number 100. Because, I mean, I'd done a few of these lists before, and the 100 spot is usually relegated to somebody who's important but contemptible. Yeah. I did the South Park list, and I don't know if anybody listening watches South Park, but Pip was the 100 character because important, yes, but we also hate him. So Cool Cat needed to be 100. Buddy was 99. And Foxy, who's just the most blatant Mickey Mouse clone of all Mickey Mouse clones. So the goal
back from the 30s era.
Yeah. So it's I wanted to have everybody. I wanted Bosco to be a decent part of it. I've done these lists before, and I never like to eliminate characters that are problematic, especially if they're historically important.
Right.
And for Looney Tunes, you got your pick of the litter for problematic characters.
You really do. You really do. There's a lot of history in 93 years.
Yeah. So I tried to see I didn't want Hitler on the list, even though he's in a lot of Looney Tunes. I considered it for a minute there. And I was trying not to include characters like Hiawatha, even if he was close. Hiawatha was on the edge there. But Pepe gets a decent spot up on the high on the list, and Bosco is a caricature of a black boy, which is horrible and unacceptable, but the history of that was kind of obscured for a long time. So, and he's the first Looney Tune character ever, so we couldn't not include him. So I think I wanted to include him, but also explain, hey, this is not cool, but it's an important part of the history, so let's include it. So.
The fact that you took the time to really delineate where each character should go, I think that is a testament to validating this list in some respect. And also, you added quotes. I've never heard Bob Bergen talk about Henry Hawk before, but I get to hear him talk about it in your list, which is so cool. He has a little quote that says, "A character like that who's teeny weeny, yet who has the kind of an ego and bitterness, you've got to love those kind of underdogs." Like, it's remarkable how much we owe our childhoods, but also our comedic natures to these characters and to these shorts. And I think that this list is a valuable piece of document history of an examination of that. And I think it's important. Throwing it back to you, was there any character that ranked higher or lower that really surprised you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was advocating for Michigan J. Frog to be higher.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal.
My whole thing was I wanted to be the facilitator. I didn't want to have too much of my own input in this, even though I definitely have my opinions. I think I am very much a Clampett guy, and Chuck Jones is not my favorite Looney Tunes director. But I think One Froggy Evening is not only maybe the best Looney Tunes cartoon ever, but also a perfect piece of comedy. It's just so funny and memorable, and Michigan J. Frog is became host of the WB for strange.
Yeah.
But, I thought that character would be higher. I thought I was even advocating for top 10 for him, but everybody else was like, no, it's too high. That's too high. That's too high. So that one I thought he was he's at 17. So for a character in one cartoon, that's still very high. But I thought he was
very high.
Yeah. Who else is higher than I thought? Sylvester Jr. I was never really a fan of him, but Bob McKimson Jr. pointed out that he's in a lot of cartoons, which he is, and so he ended up a little higher than I would have thought. I'm trying to think who else surprised me. I think I know there's certain things I feel like I learned from the list, like having gone through it. Like I gained a whole new appreciation for Sam Sheepdog and Ralph Wolf.
Oh, really? Do tell.
Yeah, because I kind of always thought there are those other. Is that other Wile E. Coyote?
No, he's his own character.
Well, I mean, he's his own character without his own design. But yes, he's his own character.
Yes, exactly.
He's
just a different shade of nose.
Yeah, with just very lazy design aesthetic.
And a buck tooth.
But I mean, what is very different about him is the way the jokes are delivered. In that, they're crazy meta. Wile E. Coyote doesn't clock out. He's always after the Roadrunner. He's this craven maniac. Whereas Ralph Wolf and Sam Sheepdog, they walk in, they greet each other very civilly, they clock in, they chase each other for 8 hours, they then clock out for lunch, eat lunch together, clock back in, chase each other for another 4 hours, and then clock out and leave. And it's their jobs. And that's such a meta thing to do on the kind of cat and mouse relationship that drives most of Looney Tunes.
Right.
So it's very funny. I never kind of looked at him that way, and I was like, oh, that's super cool that there's this whole other level to those shorts I never thought much about. So that I love.
There was a quote from Chuck Jones that I always found fascinating, which was,
"In pitting Ralph Wolf against Sam Sheepdog, I was trying to discover if I could do the opposite of the chase at the heart of the Roadrunner cartoons. The Roadrunner is moving all the time and at great speed. I therefore wanted the Wolf's opponent not to move at all. And that is exactly what happens, or doesn't. Sam just sits very solidly on the ground. He doesn't move. He is there." Chuck Jones, Chuck Redux, 1996.
It's definitely interesting. I mean, that's definitely an interesting way to look at it. I don't think I'd heard that one before. Let me ask you, do you have certain, because you didn't, you were part of many who, put this list together. Did you think anybody was unduly high or low that you thought was, I wish that this character was in a different spot?
Well, you and I had a conversation about Granny. And I think at the moment, whenever that happened, Granny was somewhere in the 70s. And I was like, Granny should be a lot lower. And we ended up getting Granny, and I think you went back and talked to some of the other people as well, and it ended at 15.
Come to Papa, baby.
Sam's sake, nothing like this has happened to me since the boys got back from Gettysburg.
So that one was quite a...
Was she that low originally? Goodness, I didn't remember.
Yeah.
Did she make it low? Yeah.
She's 15. And
wow. No, I mean, did she end up that... Was she originally in the 70s? I couldn't remember how
she was up there.
She was up.
Yeah,
that's great.
I think she was in the 70s. But I really think you nailed the top 10, and I'll go through them at the end of this episode just so, people that haven't read the article can get a sense of, the top 10 greatest Looney Tunes characters as told by Jerry Beck and all of these people who have actually had their hands in the pie working on them. I just think that is a really special feat. So kudos to you and the Crack team for putting that together. Hippity Hopper surprised me.
That was a little high. I'm not a huge Hippity Hopper fan.
I am not either. But it is an interesting dynamic between him and Sylvester, I will say. The same goes for Sylvester Jr., because it changes how Sylvester is portrayed in that episode or in those shorts.
Well, honestly, one thing that actually, is it too early to like rattle off the top 10? Because some of them did. Sylvester's placements.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So number 10. Should we start with? Let's do 15.
Okay.
So Granny was 15.
14
was Marvin. 14 was Marvin.
Oh, goody!
Pepe was 13. I thought there's some poetry to having him in the unlucky 13 slot.
Guess who? It is me.
Elmer was 12.
Well, what do you know?
And Yosemite was 11. And we reasoned that Yosemite should outrank Fudd only because he is funnier.
Yes.
That's my boy!
He is.
He's just
undeniably. Undeniably, he's funnier.
He really is. Speedy was 10.
Speedy Gonzales, friend of my sister.
Speedy Gonzales, friend of everybody's sister.
Because Speedy's like, even though he's had a rocky history sometimes, he's won some Oscars.
Yep.
He's won an Oscar, and he's an important character, and he's undeniably beloved. Foghorn, who's my personal favorite, is at 9.
It's a great choice.
Almost had a gag, son. Joke, that is.
8 is Roadrunner. 7's Wile E. Coyote. Taz is number 6.
What for you bury me in the cold, cold ground?
Tweety's 5. Sylvester's 4. Porky's 3. Daffy is 2. And Bugs, of course, is 1.
Of course. He's called Mr. Looney Tune in Space Jam, and he's Mr. Looney Tune for a reason. I mean,
there's no
there's no contest. But
although I will say this, I was advocating for Porky to be 2 and Daffy to be 3 for a while.
Oh, drat it.
My thinking was that even though Daffy's funnier, bigger, better, all the above, Porky was more historically important. So there's a decent, because he's the first Looney Tunes star.
Yes.
And he's the moment Looney Tunes becomes Looney Tunes and not let's do Mickey Mouse ripoffs.
Right.
So I was kind of advocating for Porky to be 2 and Daffy to be 3, to be a little bit provocative, but not absurdly so. But everybody disagreed with me. So like I said, I was so Porky ended up at 3, which was probably the correct place to put him.
Absolutely. And it is undeniable the impact he's had on the franchise. And he's going to be starring alongside Daffy in the first ever Looney Tunes feature film that is fully animated. And I cannot be more happier. That film is being produced by the same team that did Looney Tunes cartoons. And it's a wonderful team headed by Pete Brownguard, who's directing it. And I think that placement is justified for sure.
I'm psyched for that too. I think it's like that pairing, that comedic pairing is always funny.
And I'm so glad they got the name back. The Day the Earth Blew Up. Like that is a perfect Looney Tunes title.
Is that from something else?
No, it's just
or is it just
it's a parody of The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Yeah. I like the title as well. Yeah.
So, did you have any feedback from this article, or did you get any comments that were like thought provoking?
Oh, I mean, some people were like, "Oh, this character's too high. This character's too low." There was some of that. I forget what people are saying, but I mean, like, the whole point of these things is like you want a little bit of that, and I don't think there's anything too egregious. There were characters that were like, that like people were, oh, you should have included this character, and I maybe they were right. I mean, when you get to 100, whoever should have been 101 and 102, there's probably just as much of an argument for them to be 98 and 97. You know what I mean? So there's a point where there's a cutoff. One of the things I thought was most like surprising to me was Sylvester at number 4. Not because I don't like Sylvester, but I just didn't think of him. Sylvester's never been my favorite. I like him, but he's not my favorite. And Bergman pointed out, like, Sylvester is the most versatile of those core cast of characters.
Absolutely.
He's a pet. He speaks. He's a partner to Porky. He works with Sylvester Jr. He works with Tweety, obviously. Like, Speedy. Like, Sylvester is in the most of everybody, including Bugs. He's got the most Oscar-winning shorts. And he's super versatile and takes on so many kinds of different dynamics. And I was like, shit, yeah, him being number 4 was a nice little surprise that I didn't expect.
I would also agree with that, because I would think that he would be probably around where Granny is, or Marvin.
Yeah.
But the fact that he's actually in the top 5, I think is
Sylvester's number 4.
He's number 4. Yeah. That is surprising.
Out, just above Tweety, and then Taz was 6.
Yeah.
So
for a non-speaking character, that's pretty good.
What's that?
For
Taz?
Yeah, for Taz, yeah.
Well, I mean, so that was a character that people like. I mean, honestly, that was when I stood up for a little bit more, because I think McKimson and Clampett were saying, like, you know, he's only in like 3, 4, or 5 cartoons, and I was like, when I was a kid in the 90s, Taz was almost as big as Bugs Bunny. He was huge. So I think if a character owns a period like that, even if it's not present, even if it's leveled out presently, for the better, frankly.
Sure.
I don't think, like, I think that should be factored in. The whole idea was, I want this list to kind of stand for all time, not just where Looney Tunes is now, which is why Pepe is high on the list, right, at number 13.
Yeah.
I wanted to stand for, like, all of Looney Tunes, so that's why Bosco's on here. That's why all those things are here, because, and if Taz was the near king of Looney Tunes for a little while there, and was on all those T-shirts, like,
I was gonna say,
it was a big deal.
It was the merchandise. They put Taz alongside Bugs and Daffy on a lot of T-shirts and mugs and everything they could put these characters on. He's currently on my cup.
Yeah.
He's everywhere. That's great though, and I agree. Yeah,
we did have some. What did you think about? So I made a huge list of modern characters, and at the end of it, only 2 modern characters ended up on the list. Lola at 20.
Lola, what are you doing here?
Did you ask that girl out?
Yeah, I did.
So you're gonna go out with her? What do you even know about this girl? She could be trouble. She could be dangerous. You know, not every girl is as stable as me.
And the Monstars somewhere in the 80s, I think, or 90s.
Time to play a little basketball.
Yeah, I mean,
how did you feel about that? Should we have more modern characters? Should those 2 have no business being on there? What did you think?
I think that you made the right call. I don't think the list should have incorporated as many of those modern characters as there are, because there are quite a few now, and they grew over the years. But those that you named, those 2, Lola and the Monstars, have really stuck around in people's minds, and in fan art, and on merchandise, and on a lot of in the zeitgeist, if you will. Like, they have a stronger hold than any other modern Looney Tune character that has been created lately. And you and I discussed Petunia Pig, who was a part of Looney Tunes cartoons, so the Reinvigoration series, and she was given a new personality.
I'll be right there. I'll have what they're having.
And she's also in that movie. She's also in The Day the Earth Blew Up. So her being on that list is also vital. to the Looney Tunes franchise. And also she started out so long ago, but no one did anything with her that she kind of drifted off into the background until the past 3 years. So it's really great to see her on that list as well. But as far as the modern characters go, no, you nailed it. It's Lola and the Monstars, and I can't think of anyone else that really deserves a position on that list. So
thanks to your kind of input on Petunia, she ended up high. She ended up at number 37, which I think, like, even though they hadn't done much with her recently, like, those recent additions made her more important.
Absolutely.
And kind of, like, worked your way up the list. And honestly, you can thank Jeff Bergman for the Monstars being on the list, because I wasn't going to include them at all. And he was saying, like, look, when they came out with the new Space Jam, which I still haven't seen, should I see that or no? I don't care.
I mean, it's up to you. It's okay. It could be a lot better.
Anyway, he was like, when they came up with the new Space Jam, he was like, people were like, where are the Monstars? Where are the Monstars? Like, a lot of people like the Monstars. And I was like, all right, let's put them somewhere on here. It makes sense.
Yeah.
And Lola's worked her way up. Like, I think Lola was very much like, oh, we need a girl in this thing. And they created Lola.
Right.
But there have been some very real attempts to make her a better character. I know Kristen Wiig did a great interpretation of her. So I thought her at 20 seemed fair, even though oftentimes I was playing with, do we even want her on the list at all?
Right. So. No, I think that she might be a little high, but having her on the list is important as far as just the history of the characters and who really made an impact. She's one that definitely made an impact. I actually wanted to go back to Tom Ruegger real quick, because we had a conversation about Tiny Toons, and Ruegger had said that they are completely different characters and should not be on this list. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes. I'm glad you reminded me of that, because there was a time where this list was going to definitely include the Tiny Toons characters.
Mm.
And my reasoning was, I don't want Hiawatha on this list. I don't want Injun Joe. I don't want these characters that are so problematic that it's like every other character is an excuse, is apologizing for the history of the Looney Tunes. And I really I grew up with Tiny Toons and liked them. I thought, like, yeah, they're Looney Tunes characters. It's a spin-off of Looney Tunes, basically. Looney Tunes are on the show. I thought it was reasonable to think that they were Looney Tunes characters, and it would be interesting to mix them in there. And the obvious number one character would have been Babs, because it was the first significant female character that was like funny and original, and she wasn't just a ripoff of Bugs. Like, she would have been, I would say, top 20 easy.
Wow.
Because I just think she's a really funny, and I think you would have had all of the various Tiny Toons characters mixed in there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just surprised that how different the list would have been had they been included.
And that was the original thought, but then when I was talking to about Ruegger, he was resistant to have any new characters. And we got talking about Tiny Toons back and forth for a while, and he said, but they're not Looney Tunes characters. And I was like, well, if there's one person on planet Earth who can make that call, it's Tom Ruegger. With that, what was kind of on the fence, knocked them out of the list, because if Tom Ruegger says they're not Looney Tunes characters, they're not Looney Tunes characters.
Who would better than the guy who created Tiny Toons?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's great. I agree with him.
Yeah, I was on the fence about including them. I thought I mostly wanted to include them to add some variety and to not have so many problematic characters, which we didn't end up having that many anyway. So I think Slowpoke's on the list, which surprised me. I didn't think he'd be on the list.
Only the fastest mouse can make it, which is me. Not the slowest mouse, which is you.
Maybe Slowpoke is pretty slow downstairs in the feet, but he's pretty fast upstairs in the cabeza.
But I think it's just like, if you explain why he's on the list and acknowledge that, this character's got some issues, then I think that's okay to do. But like I said, I was worried about that. It's hard to figure out how you fit those oranges in with those apples.
Sure.
Right? Like, where does Babs really go when ranked against other characters that she has nothing to do with?
Yeah.
It's hard.
And I remember fighting for Cottontail Joe, who also makes an appearance in Looney Tunes Back in Action. That was the last time we saw him. And he's the villain in Super Rabbit. Like, having these other smaller characters be hoisted up by the support of such a strong lead like Bugs, I think really elevates them. The same goes for the Gremlin and Cecil Turtle. Like those are elevated because they went off against Bugs. If that was anybody else, I don't know if that would have performed the same way, you know? And they
I
really
agree.
got to shine because they were going off of Bugs Bunny. So,
and I mean, with the Gremlin and Cecil in particular, two characters that bested Bugs.
Yeah.
Gasp! Hey, I bet that was a... Say, do you think that... Hey, could that have been a... Gremlin? It ain't Vendel Vilkey!
Falling Hair is my single favorite. Maybe Rebel Rabbit's up there too, because he's such an anarchist in that one. But those are my two favorite Bugs cartoons. So I have a very soft spot for the Gremlin. So I was happy he made it all the way up to number 30. Or is it 30? 32. So I thought that was a good spot for the Gremlin because I love that character. He's only in one short, so.
And he's back in Looney Tunes cartoons. If you haven't seen High Speed Hair, I highly recommend it.
I've heard that, yeah, because I thought that Looney Tunes had some issues with the rights to that character for a while, and apparently he's back now, so I don't know. Maybe it's not an issue anymore.
Yeah, he's back. So, real quick, give me a pitch of the Turtle Tracks. What do you get into with the Ninja Turtles, and did you like the new movie?
I did like the new movie. I thought it was really good. Yeah, I'm a crazy Ninja Turtles fan and have been my whole life. So I do a podcast where it's purely an interview podcast where I talk to writers and artists and directors and one of the creators of the Turtles and voice actors and all these other kinds of people from Turtle history. And I've been doing it for 4.5-5 years now, maybe. Nice. I also wrote the official oral history of The Last Ronin for Inverse Magazine, which is that new Turtles comic they did last year or over the last couple of years, where like Michelangelo's the last surviving turtle. But it's for Ninja Turtles nerds, it's an interview podcast, interviewing all kinds of different turtle people. So
cool. Well, I highly recommend people check it out. And
thank you.
To end it on a Looney Tunes question. Whenever you go back and watch the classic shorts, is there now a character that stands out to you after having gone through this entire list and dissecting like where people rank and their performances? Has it reinvigorated your interest in going back and watching them?
Yes, it has. And I've watched a few since then. Let's see here. I mean, I would say Sam Sheepdog and Ralph Wolf is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of seeing those cartoons that I never really thought much about in a new light is kind of a big deal to me.
Yeah, they're great.
I've watched. And like I said, they're just most meta of jokes. And I mean, it's not that it's a new appreciation; it's just an ongoing appreciation. I watched the Three Little Bops like less than a week ago.
Nice,
and it's one of my. It's such a good, funny, sharp. That's a great cartoon. And with none of the primary characters. I love the primary characters. Mostly non-primary characters. Like the Honey Mousers are on this list. I don't give a shit about the Honey Mousers. But
I mean, they're just a parody of the Honeymooners. I mean, it's just there.
I mean, I kind of have a little more affection for the Jack Benny character because I love Jack Benny.
Yeah,
and I like Honeymooners too. But it's like, who cares? I forgot my.
Did McKimson direct Little Bops, or was that Frizz?
Oh, I think that was Frizz.
I think it was Frizz too.
I think that was Frizz.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, Three Little Bops I watched the other day and I love that one. So that's sort of just an ongoing appreciation. So the list did kind of help boost up certain characters for me. Yeah, for sure. Oh, Little Man from the Draft Board. He's one. I watched. It was so interesting because you were the one advocating for Draft Horse, right?
Yes.
So I put Draft Horse and those two right next to each other because I thought that they were like two opposite cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
Draft Horse is delightful, but it's very much like, let's go kill those other people, war propaganda stuff, right? Little man, Drafty Daffy, is the exact opposite. Daffy is, I love America, everything's great. The second they want him to serve, he's like, nope, I am not doing this. I'm going to go way out of my way not to serve. Which, I mean, you got to figure during the war, that is arguably like way unpatriotic to do.
Yeah.
So like,
they're risky short.
Dare you?
Oh, the little man from the draft board, he is coming to see me. Oh, the man from the draft board. Oh, yeah!
Yeah. So like that, I think that's one in particular, like, especially when it played in contrast to the more like flag waving shorts. That one in particular is being like, I mean, I don't know if it's anti-war, but it's getting there. It's a little close to like, yeah, that sounds scary. I don't want to do my duty as a patriotic American in the 40s. I'm going to get the hell out of here. So I think that's one cartoon where I was like, oh man, this is really funny. And given the time period, really brave.
Yeah.
So
I still can't believe they made that one.
Yeah. It's so funny to me. I never really thought about it that hard. And I was like, they made this in what, like 42, 43?
Yeah.
Like they made this in the middle of war, like the most patriotic, like you don't question that stuff kind of war, you know what I mean? Like, and Daffy's like, nope, I am not doing any of that. I'm out of here. And he's like trying to kill the man from the draft board. Like that's hysterical. It's great.
But you know, the entire animation crew were just laughing their asses off the entire time, going, "Can you believe like we're getting away with this?"
Yeah. That's a crazy one. That's definitely one that because of this, I was like, man, that's a good cartoon and so brave. So
absolutely. Well, Brian, thank you so much for talking me through the article. Where can people read it and where can people find you online?
So for the article, crack.com, I'm sure we can share a link, but yeah, crack.com, 100 greatest Looney Tunes characters, or just Google 100 greatest Looney Tunes characters because nobody's ever done that list before. I mean,
yeah,
Barrett Beck did a book with 100 greatest Looney Tunes shorts, which is a very good book. But this is the only ranking out there of the 100 greatest Looney Tunes characters. So if you look for it, you'll find it. As for me, I'm on, I'm on all that social media crap. But if you really, I mean, I'm not really on it. The only one I actually keep up with is the Turtles one. So if you want to find me and yell at me about what other character I missed on this list, just DM me on Turtle Tracks Podcast, Instagram, and you'll find me that way. That's probably the best way to find me.
Fantastic. So. And again, thank you for including me in this curated list of experts and fans to talk about it. I just had a blast going over each character with you. You can follow.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you can follow the podcast over at Instagram and Facebook at This Means Podcast and OFC This Means Pod on X, formerly Twitter. I don't know why we're still calling it that, but we are. Weird times. And you can follow the YouTube over at This Means Podcast as well, where I upload videos of these podcasts sometimes. So be sure to subscribe over there. If not, it'll just be the audio, and you can have fun listening to it over there or on Podbean and Apple and everywhere else it's uploaded on the podcast platforms. And as always, that's not all, folks. Keep it right here because there's a lot of Looney Tunes coming at you, and it's coming fast.